So this long line of cars behind me are cars dealers cannot sell right now. And what's interesting about this is I'm at a used car dealer auction, and this is where dealers take cars to actually turn into instant cash. And I know what you're asking me, Brandon, why would used car dealers actually bring their cars to auction to dump them instead of giving their customer a better deal, lower your prices? Well, in a lot of cases, these car dealers, they're absolutely broke and they don't actually own their vehicles. And I know that's crazy for a lot of you to understand, but think about a credit card, and this is exactly what dealers use to actually buy their inventory. They do the equivalent of swiping a credit card. And what happens if you have a credit card that you have for 30 days, you make a purchase and you don't make a payment? Well, you have to pay interest on that credit card, and that's exactly what a lot of these car dealers have to do. See, a lot of those cars that I'm showing you right now, they're all independent dealers. Now, a lot of these franchise dealers, you think Toyota, Ford, GM, whenever they get cars in on trade, then in a lot of cases, this is where those cars come. That's not abnormal. What I'm seeing more and more of that is abnormal is these independent dealers and the amount of cars that they're actually bringing into the system. See, 3-4 years ago, this is not something that we would see. This whole line of independent cars, it would be almost non-existent. There would be maybe 3 or 4 to 10 cars that a lot of these independent dealers would actually bring to dump at these auctions because they were able to get the world for them on their lot. So they would absolutely not need to dump these cars to turn in some instant cash. So what would they do? They would just sell them on their lot, and they would never have to bring these cars here. But now is not the case because the car market has been very, very slow over the last couple months. If you've been watching me, you've been watching this channel, subscribe, by the way, if you want to get these updates every single week. But you're seeing that we're a lot slower. Even cars that I'm selling, I sell cars that are $5,000 and under, and even cars that are $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 are sitting a lot longer than they have been over the last few years. And if my cars are sitting longer, well, you know, cars like this GMC Denali, I mean, you can look at this thing. Is something that a mid-tier dealer would probably sell for $6,000-$7,000. If my $5,000 and under stuff is sitting longer, you know that mid-tier kind of stuff is absolutely going to sit longer. And here's what happens. I talked about this at the beginning of the video where these dealers, they're broke. They don't actually own a lot of their inventory. They swipe a credit card to be able to buy their inventory. So what happens? Well, if these cars sit on their lot for 30, 60, 90 days, they have to pay interest every single month on these vehicles to keep their accounts current to be able to buy more inventory. So what ends up happening is they can get underwater on a lot of their cars. And just like what can happen on people who buy like commercial real estate, if you get over leveraged in stocks, margin calls, stuff like that happens. Well, a lot of these floor plan companies, that's what they're called, the companies that actually loan the monies out to these car dealers, they can start calling a portion of the loan. They have to pay X percentage of the loan that they're taking for these cars. In a lot of cases, it's 25 or it's 50% that they'll have to pay in 90 days. And a lot of these car dealers, like I said, they're broke, so they don't have the money to fulfill this. So what do? Well, the easiest way for these car dealers to make instant cash is by taking it to an auction, and they can get cash that day. Every one of these cars you see all behind me, I'm at an auction today. They got, 250 cars that they're running today. Every one of these cars today will get bids on it, and the cars that actually sell when they go through the lane, well, those cars, if I buy a car, if I raise my hand and I'm the high bidder on a car for $2,500, well, I'm leaving this auction company a check before I leave with that car. I own that car. But then, likewise, that seller no longer owns that car, and they get that check from the auction company today to be able to cash it in, and they can turn that instant cash. So if a lot of these car dealers actually have payments that they have to satisfy for their floor plans, well, if they're not selling a lot of cars, well, they can turn some instant money here. They can go ahead and pay their floor plans and keep it current. Because another thing you got to think about with a lot of these car dealers is they have to keep their floor plans current. Because the only way that they can buy their inventory is if they're actually borrowing money to be able to buy it. So if they get their credit lines heavily decreased because they're not current on their payments, or even worse, if they get their credit lines taken away, which is what we've seen in a lot of cases where a lot of these car dealerships can actually go under because their credit's no longer any good. And if you can't borrow money and you have no money, you can't buy cars. And I like to say it a lot. Well, if these credit lines get taken away, a lot of these car dealers, well, if you can't buy cars, Well, you can't sell cars. You can't sell cars. You can't make money. If you can't make money, then why are you even in business? So that can cause a lot of these car dealers to actually shut up. And here's the big problem for a lot of these dealers too that are trying to turn this instant cash. See, look up there on the hill. Most of the cars that are up there are actually new car dealer trades. And what that means is when you go in and you trade in your 2005 Toyota Camry for a brand new 2025 Camry, well, that's that 2005 Camry that you trade in at that new car dealership, that Toyota dealership. Toyota doesn't want to keep that on their lot, so they don't. They bring it here, and used car dealers, just like myself, that's what I like to buy. That's what we buy. We buy new car dealer trades, because those trade-in cars, they don't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with the car. It just means that that customer wanted to upgrade that car. So those are the cars that I buy, and those are really the only cars that I buy. Now, we have repos that come through the auction too, and I'll buy those every once in a while, but it's mainly, I would say 95% of the cars that we actually buy from our car lot are new car dealer trades. And so the difference between that and what these independent car dealers are bringing, I won't touch those cars, because what I know is that there's something wrong with that car. There might not be anything materially wrong with the car, but it might be an undesirable car. Either way, I know that that independent dealer couldn't sell that car on their car lot for whatever reason. It sat for a very long time, and that makes me think, okay, well, if they can't sell it on their lot, why would I be able to sell it on my lot? That's what a lot of these other independent car dealers like myself think. We all think the same way. And if you get these independent car dealers that are bringing their cars, well, you're not going to have the same level of demand from buying dealers like myself on those particular cars. So they're not going to bring as much money. So you can get into the situation where a lot of these independent dealers get into, where they get stretched for cash. They really need to turn that money real quick, so they have to they have to pull the Hail Mary and come and bring 4 or 5 of their cars, and they're going to sell all of them that day. Where maybe there's a car that they bought because it was a new car dealer trade-in. There was a lot of dealers bidding on that car 3 months ago, and it brought $5,000. So they bought it, and now 3 months later, we also have a downtrending market. I'll talk about that in a second. But 3 months later, they bring it, and because they're selling it as an independent dealer and not a new car dealer trade-in, well, a lot of independent dealers like myself are not going to bid on that car. So what ends up happening is you only get 2-3 guys maybe on that car, and instead of it bringing $5,000 like that initial dealer paid for it, it's only going to bring $2,500, $3,000. And it's that drastic of a difference just because of the name that's on the car of who's selling it. And it's crazy to think about that in 3 months' time, that dealer can lose that much money. But let's go through the lineage of what this dealer had to do. They buy that car for $5,000. They're not just doing nothing to it. They're going to have to detail. They're going to have to get inspected depending on what state you're in. We're in North Carolina. You got to get cars inspected to actually sell them to a customer. You're going to have something you got to fix on a car. That particular car that I'm giving the example of is a $5,000 car. You're going to have some kind of expense on that vehicle, and so it's going to add up. And then on top of that, they're borrowing money to be able to buy the car. So you're going to add all your interest payments. So you have costs on this car that are going up and up and up. And what's the market doing? Well, the wholesale market right now, market's weak. It's going down and down and down. So you get to a point where, okay, car dealer expenses going up, the value of the car, of what they can actually sell it for, is going down. And at some point that crosses, and that's just retail. So when they bring it wholesale and they put all this money into it, and then it's even bringing $2,500 less than what they initially paid for it, that's a setup for disaster. And a lot of these car dealers that are strapped, what's happening? They can't bring one car. $2,500 is not going to satisfy what they owe on their floor plans. They're going to have to bring 5 cars. So they take a hit of, let's just say $2,000 across 5 cars. They're going to lose $10,000 in that one incident right there. This is a setup for disaster for a lot of car dealers, and a lot of car dealers are experiencing this right now. 2, another thing. If a car dealer doesn't go the route to try to satisfy their loans, because they know that when they bring these cars here, they're going to lose so much money, and they can't afford to lose that $10,000, and they know that they have to pay the difference of what the car brings versus what they owe, and they just don't have the cash. They know that. They know it's going to bring a lot less when they bring it to the auction. So they don't bring it to the auction. They keep it on their lot. They try to sell it because they got to get their head above water, and hopefully that consumer will come and buy a couple cars and bail them out. Maybe they'll have a good week. but it's not happening. So what else am I seeing happen at a lot of these car dealer auctions? Well, I'm seeing floor plan companies actually selling a lot of vehicles at these used car dealer auctions. What does that mean? Well, those of you that know what happens to cars that don't get paid for, even on the dealer side, you hear about repos a lot. Repo is a big buzzword right now. There's lots of repo videos that are popping up over the internet. Highest auto loan delinquencies that we've ever seen right now going on right this second. Highest amount of repos. There's a backlog of repos that are going on right now. Banks are extending, trying to work with people. They're doing everything they can to not have all these repos come into the system with people not paying their payments. Dealers are experiencing the same thing. So consumers can get their cars repoed, but also dealers can get their cars repoed, and that's what we're seeing more of. These guys, they don't make their payments on their floor plans. They don't want to just dump cars because they got to pay the difference, and they don't have the money for that. And they hope the customers come and buy the cars from them. Doesn't materialize, so then the floor plan company can go and they can actually pick up these cars from these dealership lots. They can take tow trucks into the dealership lot, pick up that car that they owe money on, and when you owe money on your floor plan, when you go and buy one of these cars on credit, then the auction company doesn't send the title to the dealer. They send it to the floor plan company. So if the floor plan company has to go to the dealership and pick up the car, well, now it can become the floor plan company's property. And I've talked to some floor plan company reps, and here's what they've told me. They said, Brandon, dealing with a lot of this, and I mean, we've dealt with it over the years, so we have a system for this. We're seeing more of it now. But what we do is when we see a dealer who is not really moving cars the way that we think they should, in the amount of days that we think they should, and we get a little bit too much money on the wheels for them, on the payment. That's just saying they got too much money that they loaned out to them. And the bank starts getting nervous about it. Well, what they say that they'll do is they'll go and they'll help the dealer sell the car. And what that means is that they're going to go pick up that car from that dealership, they're going to bring it to this auction, and they're going to dump it for whatever it brings. Then that dealer has to pay the difference of what they owe to the floor plan company minus what it brought. So if they owe $5,000 on the car, it only brings $2,500. That dealer owes $2,500 times however many cars that they dump. And this is how dealerships can lose their floor plans when that happens over and over and over again. And it's just funny how the rep actually worded it to me, because she said, yeah, we go and we'll help them sell their cars. They're not standing out there with a sign saying, hey, please come buy this, or they're not giving them advice. No, they go pick up the car, bring it here, and they help these dealers sell these cars.